Island
Oh my
Railroad.
god, bro, I'm a huge fan of your
And
content,
we
dude.
are live here on
Oh
this
my god.
I'm new
season
here.
1, episode 8 of Crushing
Rail Fed K
Activities
Train
as an
Productions,
18th
bro.
birthday
I've been a
special.
fan
I
of
mean,
your
like late
channel, bro. I
18th
love
birthday
you
Hold on,
special.
guys.
hold on.
Even though my birthday is like last week on Wednesday, October 12th, 2022. But
Yeah.
in this episode, we're going to be talking about the top 20 American steam locomotives, preserved American steam locomotives that have not operated in the preservation era.
Oh, I know some of those train steam engines. I mean, like, are we gonna talk about other steam engines like before, like the Cotton Belt? Those trains.
Can we at
Those locomotives
least?
had operated in excursion service, but we're not going to talk. But we are going to talk about the ones that have not operated in a preservation era. I mean, they're still preserved, but one of them has not operated in a preservation era in excursions. One of them has not, like the New York Central 3001, Pennsylvania Railroad 6755, Baltimore and Ohio 5302, and also Canadian Pacific 5931, and Canadian National 6400 too, and
There's
the
a
Illinois
lot,
Central
honestly.
2500.
There's been a lot of trains that never been, not preserved, but in other
That
words,
have never
like,
been
they've
used in
been used.
excursions, like the Duluth, Mesabi, and Iron Range,
Can I say
Yellowstone
something?
locomotives too.
Yeah, go ahead, dude.
Kansas Chiefs, Kansas Chiefs.
And also we can
Kansas
talk
Chiefs.
about
Okay,
other
stop.
steam locomotives with, and also we can also in this top 10 video, the Cap Forward 4294 will be included because it didn't operate in excursion service. Number 4294. Yeah, but first locomotive we're going to talk about is the New York Central 3001 locomotive. So Manuel, would you start with the history of the locomotive by searching information about Wikipedia?
Yeah, sure. What's the engine we're talking about?
New York Central 3001, which is an L3A 482 Mohawk type steam locomotive.
Okay. Which number again? I got the New York Central.
New York Central 3001.
3001. Oh, I see it. I got it. All right, gotcha. All right, okay. All right. Hold on, just let me get a drink of water. Hang on, just. Okay, I'm ready. All right, the New York Central 3001 is a 4-8-2 Mohawk or mountain mountain in another language type steam locomotive built in 1940 by the American Locomotive Company, Elco,
AKA Elco for short.
Yeah, Elco for
New
short.
York Central
For the New
Railroad.
York Central Railroad, normally known as mountain types, New York Central 4-8-2 steam locomotives were dubbed Mohawk types after the Mohawk River, which was the New York Central followed. Built for dual service work, the 3001 was used heavily for freight and passenger trains until being retired in 1957. The locomotive is currently on a static display at the National New York Central Railroad Museum in Elkhart, Indiana. It is the largest
and
New York
let's talk
Central
about the
steam
background.
locomotive.
Let's talk about
yeah.
the background of the New York Central Mohawk. In the
Okay.
late 1930s, the New York Central was looking for a heavier steam locomotive to move more freight and passenger trains swiftly, making them AKA dual service locomotives. The New York Central looked at a dual service steam locomotive. The modern 1940 L3A from the American Locomotive Company, aka ALCO for short, was able to move both heavy freight and passenger trains and freight trains while relative ease. So the New York Central acquired both the L3 and L4 classes of Mohawks from Alco and the Lima Locomotive Works in 1940 and 1942, respectively. Now, in revenue service, the New York Central 3001 is a member of the L3A class of locomotives based in Ohio after the New York Central had dieselized east of Cleveland between August 7th and September of 1953. The Mohawk powered many general freight and passenger trains, such as the 20th Century Limited, until dieselization of that division in 1949. Number 3001 could be seen hauling passenger trains on the Boston and Allegheny Railroad. Number 3001 was often used to haul freight trains due to many New York Central Hudsons being occupied plying passenger trains. And then in later years, these electric locomotives hauled the passenger trains. And in the final years of the New York Central, the 3001 and other modern Mohawks were demoted to lighter trains due to the Pittsburgh and Lake Erie Road, New York Central's subsidiary, 284 Berkshires and the 484 Niagaras, handling increasingly heavier freight and passenger trains on the system. And as diesels flooded the New York Central 3001 and other steam locomotives still in service saw the end of coming in near. Number 3001 was finally retired on February 14th of 1957. Now, Manuel,
Yep.
you can read the preservation of the 3001.
Okay. Got it. All right. The New York Central sold L-3A number 3001 to the Texas and Pacific Railroad in March 1957 to replace the heavily vandalized and subsequently scrapped Texas and Pacific 2-10-4 Texas type numbered 638 that was on display at the Texas State Fairgrounds there. The Texas and the Pacific then donated number 3001, disguised as Texas and Pacific, numbered 909, to the city of Dallas, Texas.
I believe it's the one now extinct Texas and Pacific 210-482 mountain type steam locomotive, number 909, would have been the next member of production to continue. But imagine if they actually built number 909, then it could have been preserved instead of the 3001. And what would have happened to the 3001? Then maybe this evil president called Alfred E. Perlman would scrap it, or the 3001 could have been kept somewhere at a roundhouse for future preservation. Because we all know Alfred E. Perlman, he loves scrapping a lot of New York Central steam locomotives and loves boring and modern stuff. Yeah, he's an evil
that's
dictator.
Messed up. I'm not gonna lie, that's really messed up.
History in the Dark does a great job voicing Alfred E. Perlman, and he boys, where on earth is that last Mohawk?
He does a British accent. Was that a British accent?
Yeah, and then one of his passengers we're like, sir, don't you have anything else to do? I told you we were looking for the last steam engine. We'll let you know where it's at. And then the other engineer, the unnamed engineer's partner called Barry said, yeah, I don't know what a steam engine is. And then the unknown manager said, Barry, please stop saying that. And also Alfred E. Perlman be like, I want it in pieces, shreds, every last remnant of steam technology.
I did not know that some railroad workers really want to scrap a steam engine.
And also the unknown manager and Barry be like, we're like, are we sure we should be working for this guy? I mean, he pays us very well with all the benefits. It could be worse. Could it? And
people might say this is something else that's gonna be unveiled in the future or something, and those things are rising up on their ugly heads, the expression, with the
I just don't like Alfred E. Perlman. Thank God he's in hell for scrapping all of their steam engines, because it is an absolute sin to God.
Oh yeah, definitely. But
and then later, the 3001, still disguised as Texas and Pacific number 909, was donated to the Museum of the American Railroad in Dallas, Texas. The sale to the Texas and Pacific Railroads is the sole reason why number 3001 was not sold for scrap in 1957. And then in the early 1980s, after trading Pennsylvania Railroad GG1 number 4903 to the Museum of the American Railroad, number 3001 made its way east to Elkhart, Indiana, after being acquired by the Lakeshore Railroad Historical Foundation, but not before the locomotive was bought by a power plant for use as a stationary boiler and steam generator. But the number 3001 locomotive currently still on static display at Elkhart at the National New York Central Railroad Museum. And there were attempts made to restore it to running condition, but a lot of attempts never came to fruition. But hopefully one day, if one of us has the money like me, if I had $10 million and go to the Elkhart New York Central Rail Museum, then they would have to restore it to running condition.
I mean, if it's possible, then yes. If it's possible, if you have $1 million, then yes. I mean,
say yes if you want the 3001 to run again.
Okay, then yes.
Because we also need more New York Central steam engines in running condition. We also need 6721, and we know we got a few locomotives of the New York Central preserved. Wait, why can you just preserve more steam engines, Alfred E. Perlman? I mean, I mean, like, if he wasn't president, then another president could have been better,
Wait, you know
elected,
something else? You know something else? This might be a
elected,
little bit
and then
weird.
it would have been and then it would have been a
Uh-huh.
sight to see.
I see. But like, you
Hello,
know something
lazy
else?
boy.
Like, who was the guy that wanted to try scrapping the engines? What's his name again? What was his name?
Alfred E. Perlman.
Alfred.
Hey, wait.
Alfred. Like, he just reminds me
Sorry, I'm
of
back.
MJ Bryce from I Like Cine Trova, that billionaire that wanted Jenny her.
Yeah,
dance
and
money.
Emperor Bellows, due to
Show me your
his
face.
People say
evil
that he also
accent.
looks like
Show me your
Donald Trump.
face.
Actually, people said that he looks like.
Yeah,
Donald Trump.
we
He
hate Donald
does.
Trump.
Eat this. Yeah, you know.
We,
Hold on,
That's not
Biden
politics,
is way
no.
better than Trump.
That's
You
not
agree?
politics here. This is
And
not
Sorry,
also,
I don't know what to
the
do.
3000
That's not
and nowadays, and I mean, like, nowadays, the 3001 is one of only 2 surviving 482 Mohawks, the other being an L2D number
Hello.
2933. And the
What's up?
reason for
Hello,
this is
Katie.
because the 2933 was sold as a stationary boiler,
Hello, King.
and they secretly hid her. And then in 1962, the Museum of Transportation in St. Louis asked politely to the railroad if they can buy the locomotive
What's he
for
doing
to have in their collection, and so they did.
here?
And now the 2000 and
Hello,
Racy
King.
boy, can you
2933 has
stop talking?
I'm
cosmetically
back.
been restored.
I'm back.
Racy boy, can you mute your mic for a second, please? Alicia's talking. Alicia's
Yeah,
talking.
and also when Alfred E. Perlman noticed
I'm
this
sorry,
that
wait.
2001 and
It's fine,
2933
it's
are
fine.
preserved, he like,
I'm
boys,
sorry,
where
wait.
is that 2933? I want it in pieces. And then the unknown engineer like, sir, I'm a regular engineer and I don't make
Do
these
I-
type of decisions.
Do I check the
And then
robot?
Barry like,
Stop.
once again, why?
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 mean,
You don't
yeah,
even
that's
know what the steam
true.
engine is.
Yeah.
Barry,
Sure.
how many times do I have
Okay.
to keep saying this, Barry?
What are you doing?
So please stop saying that. You know what?
Racy boy, please
I'm
stop.
going to go to the Museum of Transportation in St. Louis and scrap the 2933, destroy all of their collection, every steam locomotive in the entire world.
Wow.
And then also the unknown engineer like had a Snicker bar like, sir, boss, please have a snack. Why?
yeah.
Because you're not
I love
yourself when you're
snack.
hungry. And then
Trolley.
Alfred E. Perlman eats the Snicker bar, and then
Peanut butter.
it didn't work. And
Peanut
he didn't feel
butter.
better. He never changed. And he like, I want that steam engine.
Right.
And
I'm a
also
monster.
the unknown engineer and Barry be like, oh, I told you it didn't work.
Wait,
Yeah, I
wait,
told you it
wait,
didn't
wait,
work.
wait, wait, wait.
Guess you know
Wait.
what? You know what? What else we want to do? Let's run.
Oh,
All right,
God,
let's
there's
talk
no
about
way that they
another
actually.
locomotive.
There's no way they actually did that, did they? Like, did they actually? Oh wow.
I think they did that in the past.
I
mean, that took a lot of balls just to do that. I apologize.
Because
Yeah.
the Snickers,
Hey,
because
hey.
I just meant that as an expression, not like that, not a
and
context.
wait.
also
I just
let's
mean
talk
they
about
got
another
strength,
locomotive.
you know, like that. Yeah.
Let's
strength.
talk about
Right.
another locomotive. Number
All right, go ahead.
19. Number
Wait,
19. The
19 steam
the
engine.
Southern Pacific 4294.
Pacific
Wait.
92.
Why?
I love
Stop.
that engine.
I love
Really?
Thomas and Friends.
I want to see the engine. Oh wow! Oh
let me see.
wow! There's the
Let me
engine.
see.
Wait, what's the engine again? I forgot.
Southern
Like, I had-
Pacific 4294. Southern
yeah.
Pacific
19,
Cap
what?
Forward 4294.
Bro.
Okay.
Southern Pacific.
But let's talk about its fallen sibling, which is an AC11 number 4274 first.
Wait, is it 4460? Is it 446? 60?
No, it's
Yeah.
4294. It's a Cap Forward.
Oh, okay. 42. All right. Oh, I got it.
4294.
Guess what?
I got it.
But
Got it.
in order to talk about 4294 first, let's talk
Wait,
about
guys.
its fallen sibling 4274
Where is it come
because
from?
we need to talk. We first need to talk about the extinct
And
non-surviving
which is the
members
sibling
of the
anyway?
same class
one is
that
it?
were preserved first, and then we could talk about the preserved ones after the extinct members of them. Make sense?
Hang on. Like, which one is it? Which one is it? Like
4294.
Yeah, I got it. But like, which is the sibling though? Which is the one? Which is the sibling? Which
So
is it?
4294 is an AC11.
AC11?
Actually, an
What are you talking
AC12. And
What are you talking
4274 is
about?
an AC11. So let's start with 4274.
Hello, A.
All right.
Do you like
You want me to start?
trains?
So the
Jake?
4274 is an AC-11 class 4882 cab forward type steam locomotive built by the Baldwin Locomotive Works in 1943, and one of the last steam locomotives delivered to the Southern Pacific. It was put into storage in 1950. It was used for heavy frame passenger trains.
Oh wow.
And
So it's a big
then
scrap
it was
engine
put into
then.
storage in 1956, but was fired up one last time in 1957 for the last steam hauled service and excursion up to Donner Pass,
What?
the cab forward stomping ground. And after the excursion was finished, number 4274 was condemned and sold as scrap metal. But sadly, number 4274 was farewell to steam store status couldn't save its inevitable fate. And so tragically and unceremoniously, the locomotive was broken up for scrap in late 1957, which would be the ending for the reign of the cab forwards on the Southern Pacific Railroad. And many railroad historians and enthusiasts wonder why the fate of scrapping had to happen to 4274. And it didn't deserve to be scrapped, and instead should have had a better fate, just like its brother engine 4294. Do you agree?
I agree with that.
Now let's
Me
read
too.
4294.
Me three.
Yeah.
You should read 4294.
Got it. All right. And we're talking about the brother or the original one?
We'll talk about the surviving member 4294, and 4274 is extinct.
Okay.
Chiefs!
All right, got it.
So you can talk about 4294.
What race? What racy boy? What? Wait, are you talking about my profile? What?
The Southern
What?
Pacific
Come on, I have to change
4294.
it.
Yeah,
You
come
should talk
on.
about it.
All right. I'll talk about the profile picture in a little bit, okay?
What?
Southern Pacific
What?
4294 is a class AC-12 actually.
Guess what?
But like this is from the brother,
Guess
like
what?
the ancestor or something. What Alicia said.
Guess what?
Yeah, because the difference is
4-8-
between
Guess
4294 is an AC-12, not
Yes.
an AC-11. Number
Yeah, like what you said
4274
earlier.
was an AC-11. And I believe
And
AC-12 had much more
4-8-82-2
taxed effort.
cab forward type steam locomotive that was owned and
Guess what?
operated by the Southern Pacific Railroad, or SP for short. It was built by the Baldwin Locomotive Works in March 1944 and was used hauling SPs, or Southern Pacific short, trains over the Sierra Nevada, often working on Donner Pass in California. Today, it is preserved at the California State Railroad Museum, or CSM,
What is
or
happening?
CSRM in Sacramento,
Hey, guys.
California. Oh wow!
Guys,
Oh wow!
guess what?
What?
Yeah.
Do you like
What?
Disney Pixar?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
I
like
watch
The
it.
Mills
Honestly,
won.
Someone actually made this fan art for me because they know I actually
You
do
like
ship
Cars
them.
too.
Actually, look.
Yeah.
They actually ship them. I mean,
Hello,
I do.
Aang.
LGBTQ.
Oh,
dude, come on.
hello, Race. And then also,
I
hey,
like Cozy Boy.
Yeah,
Yes, we
LGBTQ,
do.
just like Amity and Luz, Manuel.
Yeah, I like Jenny and Vega too. From
Yeah, Amity. Jenny reminds me of Amity.
Hello, Kenny. What?
No, I think no. Vega reminds me of Amity. Actually, not gonna lie.
Oh, I want to
Hey,
know what
hey.
else is even that from South Park. It's Big L
What?
and Mr.
What do you say?
Remember
What do you
them?
say? What do you say?
Mr.
What do you say?
Garrison.
No, it's a Big
What do you say?
L and
Big Al. Oh
Mr.
yeah.
and
Oh yeah.
Mr.
and
Soul.
Big Al from.
Mi-
Was it
and
from the
Mr.
movie?
Slade.
Was it from
Remember
the bigger
them?
and longer thing? Was that from the movie?
Wait.
Yeah,
let me show you
and
my
also
Oh,
face.
that
don't
was from
forget,
the movie.
Show my
Yeah.
face.
don't forget
Now
Mr.
let's talk
Mr.
about.
All right, let's
All
talk
right.
about the train. All right, I got it.
You,
I got it.
did
Do you want to go to the
do
history?
you think the 4294 should run again?
Wait. I'm gonna show you.
Yes. Yes.
I agree.
Because but
Yes.
unfortunately it's in very bad condition. Because one of the reasons why is
Wait.
because 4294 is
Good stop.
Oh,
for
show my
its get
face.
for one of its condition isn't well that great. But imagine if its condition would have if it was cosmetically restored in the first place,
Wait.
then it would have a chance of running again.
Wait.
But it'll
Yeah.
cost $1 million to
Wait.
restore it. Unfortunately.
Really? That much
That's
money
something
for
Race
an
is trying to
ancient class
say.
locomotive? Really?
Remember,
That much
you
money for an
sometimes you
ancient
need to
steam
make more
engine?
money
Wow,
and take it
that's
to
a
the
lot of money.
extreme.
It's
Wow.
And
Yeah,
you
my
would sometimes you would save it to restore the
I mean, that's
4274.
understandable because first of all, this engine has been running for what? How many years? How many years has this engine run? Like what? 100 years or what? 100 years
Guys,
ago
I
or
mean,
what? How many years?
4294 ran
Look
for
at my face.
Oh, hey, what's up?
4294 ran.
Look at my face.
So
me
it
see,
ran for 12 years.
Oh, 12 years. God damn.
Dang.
Damn, honestly. But yeah,
Okay,
but
it's
yeah,
not bad.
but
So
this
let's
engine's
talk
supposed to
about
be,
another locomotive.
Okay, go ahead. All
The
right.
Canadian Pacific 39
Hello.
59
Hello,
31,
K
which is a
train.
210-4 Selkirk take steam locomotive.
Canadian. What again?
But first we should talk about the history of the Selkirk locomotive.
Okay, can you tell me about the name again? Canadian what?
The Canadian Pacific Selkirk locomotive.
Selkirk. Okay, got it.
So the Canadian Pacific Selkirk was
Why?
the first
How?
of these large engines, which had a 210-4 wheel arrangement that was built in July of 1929. But although they weren't called 210-4 Texas types, they instead of calling them Texas, the Canadian Pacific decided to name their engines Selkirks. And altogether, 20 were constructed before the end of this year, bearing numbers 5900 to 5919. The Canadian Pacific Railways' classification was T1A. These locomotives weighed 375 short tons, 340 T fully loaded, and they were the largest, most powerful locomotives in the British Empire. And while most other 210-4s were named after the state of Texas, these locomotives were named after the Selkirk range of mountains that they crossed, the railway summit of which was located just inside the western portal of Conyet Tunnel beneath Rogers Pass.
Wait, I'm show you. Hey, King. King.
What?
Yeah.
Wait, what is it called? The Canadian Pacific Selkirk?
The Canadian Pacific Selkirk locomotives.
Okay,
Look.
Selkirk.
The Montreal Locomotive Works built another 10 of these successful Selkirk locomotives during November and December of 1938. The Canadian Pacific Railway assigned them T1B class, and they were numbered from 5920 to 5929. And these modifications led the T1B to be 10 tons or tons lighter, while increasing steam pressure from 275 to 285 psi pounds per square boiler pressure.
It's because I'm trying to lose my cool. Okay?
1.90 to 1.91 NPA.
They call it a Selkirk, right?
A Selkirk.
How do you spell it? How do you spell it? I actually forgot.
And then a further of 6 Selkirks classed T1C were built by the Montreal Locomotive Workshop in 1949. They were the last standard gauge steam locomotives built in Canada for a Canadian railway. They're much the same as except the T1B, except for a few refinements, including 2 cross-compound air compressors to speed recharging of the air brake system.
It's a good thing, honestly, now that I'm researching about these kind of stuff. Like, now that I'm searching about most of these stuff, these engines never got into accidents, right? Most of these engines that we're researching doesn't have any accidents.
And also, the streamlined casing around the smoke box stack was now absent, as was the teardrop shape of the classification lights. And also, the inside cabs were no longer lined insulated in the same manner as the previous classes. And the previous class had provided better cold weather cab insulation and were better liked by engine crews. And they were all equipped with booster seams shortly after being rebuilt. And all Selkirks 5900 to 5935 were built as oil burners. The tenders had 12,000 imperial gallons, 55,000 liters, or 14,000 U.S. gallons of water, and 4,100 imperial gallons, 19,000 liters, 4,900 U.S. gallons of fuel oil. And they had to be equipped with 2 pairs of 6-wheel trucks because the total tender weight was about 148 short tons, 132 long tons, and 134 tons.
Okay. Wow, Google's even more. Oh wow, Google's even more worthless when I was trying to search up the word. Damn it! Sorry, I'm sorry.
So, all right.
You okay?
Yeah, fine. It's just that
I
was trying to search Google, but then it didn't let me.
So let's continue.
Wait, what did you try to search up? But then did it show like a blocked thing, just like what happened?
Hey, Alan.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah,
it didn't show like that. It just did not work. I'm like, what?
Now let's talk about preservation.
Preservation, okay.
Join the green.
The last Selkirks, number 5930 to 5935, were taken out of service in 1959. All but 2 of its units, the T1C classes, were scrapped. None of which are number 5934, or which was which was incorrectly renumbered upon initial public display near downtown Calgary, and was eventually repainted and renumbered again, this time with its correct original number
Qatar
5931.
Airways.
And this locomotive was coincided with its move and relocation to the main entrance to Heritage Park in Calgary, Alberta,
Canadians
Canada.
Qatar
Southern
Airways.
New South Conquer.
Oh no, the plane. The plane.
And also, Manuel,
Plane.
none of the earlier T1A or T1B class locomotives was
Hey, King,
preserved.
Look.
And the first T1A class Selkirks had heavier looking, non-streamlined appearance, which were better examples of the heavy steam power look and the original as delivered rear Sam Dones and were removed earlier in their service life. But imagine if the T1A and the T1B preserved, Manuel.
I see.
It would be a nice, but at least we can build a replica of them, like T1A number 59, 12, and also T1B number 5926.
What?
I guess.
Look, Rascaru, French.
Okay, dude. Can we just get on the topic? Okay.
All right.
So like,
so,
but like, I just
so
want to know something. Another question.
5931 is also preserved in the Canadian Railway Museum in St. Constant, Quebec. Imagine, I would love to go to this museum one of these days, and maybe Alan, if you're interested in going to Canada, I would highly recommend you visiting this
If
museum.
I was interested in Canadian, I would also meet you guys there too if I have the money.
Alan.
Yeah, it's if I make
Yeah.
a movie there, rail fanning CN
Yeah, and
trains and
also I would like
CP
to go there
trains.
like in the summer of 2023 next year.
What's
after
up,
Maybe I
we
might go to
see
Canadian, maybe too.
That would have to be after we see the Reading 2102 disguised as the
Lightning
now extinct
McQueen.
Delaware and Hudson K62 484 Northern for the 200th anniversary of the Delaware and Hudson Railroad, because it may go up to Montreal, Quebec, Canada, because the Delaware and Hudson Railroad lines connects between those lines. These things really happen. I'm not making any of this up. Those are facts.
Yeah,
Manuel.
no, I know
Those
that
are
you're
facts.
not making these up. I know, because my grandpa used to live in Canadian. Actually, he used to live in Canada.
Really?
I never.
And
Yeah.
which
never visited
province
Canada.
in Canada? Which province?
I think in Quebec. Quebec.
Oh,
Quebec.
it's Quebec.
And
And,
also-
Quebec, yeah.
and
no,
sometimes in
I mean,
French
not
it was
only
called
that, I'll
Yeah,
Quebec.
my bad. I misspelled that. But
And not
it
only-
begins with the Q.
not
I know
only
it begins with Q.
And not only the Reading 2102 disguised as Delaware and Hudson 302, which is the now extinct K62 484 Northern Type steam locomotive event for the 200th anniversary of the Delaware and Hudson Railroad, and the Canadian Railway Museum in St. Constant, aka Expo Rail for short. I would also visit the Canada Science and Technology Museum and Ontario, Ottawa, Canada, if it's like closer to us.
I used to visit him during like the holidays, when it was Christmas time, like we sometimes go to Canada or sometimes we
Did you
he
saw
also
some
travel
steam
to
trains
us.
there?
Oh, I've seen lots of trains there actually. I think I did see a VR
You saw
train actually
steam?
one time.
You saw steam
the-
locomotives?
The Brit
Steam locomotives,
is it
I
a
think
British
so.
Columbia?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would
kinda
love to
like-
see
Do you like
some
Shark
steam
Park?
locomotives too.
I
And
think I
also,
did
I've
actually.
seen
I don't
some
know. I don't know
Canadian
what
steam-
type of locomotive it was, but it was a steam engine. I know it was a steam engine.
And I
know
also
the smoke,
saw-
the funnel, everything.
Yeah, wait, they probably.
And I've also seen some Canadian steam locomotives. I also saw there's actually
they're
one in
beautiful, dude.
Homestead,
They're beautiful.
Connecticut.
They're beautiful.
There's also
They're very
Canadian
beautiful.
Pacific G5462 Pacific
No,
in my
you're
home state,
beautiful.
Connecticut, which is Canadian Pacific 1246 at Connecticut Railroad Museum in Nunkatuck, Connecticut. And I know I've seen Canadian National 89 at the Strasbourg, and I get to ride in it for my very early birthday gift on Sunday, October 8th, 2022. Even though 2017, even though it was my 13th birthday on Thursday, October 12th, 2017. And I've also seen 7312 undergoing a restoration, and I've also seen the Steamtown
Racing?
Canadian locomotives, which
Wow.
are Canadian Pacific 2317, Canadian National 7470, and
Do you hate
also
King Mizumi?
the Canadian National 3254, the canned Canuck. I can't stand the 3254 because of a lot of its problems, because it's offset. Festering
hate
of tune up
King Mizumi?
bearings and off-center cab,
Hang on,
bent
hang on.
frame, and rough
You hate
ride and fuel
fanboy
consumption.
chum-chum.
You know what I'm trying to say?
Fanboy
Because
chum-chum, no.
like
Rainbow?
some production said in
It's
one of his
Rainbow butterfly you
videos
have.
that you've seen, Manuel. Have you seen his
Yeah, I've seen it
videos?
before. Yeah, I think I have
and
actually.
also
I'm not 100%
I'll
sure,
give it-
dude.
Yeah,
So
we're good.
maybe, not 100%.
Yeah,
You know.
and
Oh,
I
I'm
think our
found.
opinions might have changed on the 30 to
Right, found?
54 because we don't like the 30 to 54. But anyways, let's continue talking about if one of the Selkirk locomotives 5931 should run again. Do you think it should
They
run
should
again?
run.
Yeah,
Yes.
maybe
I'll be right
the
back.
Canadian Pacific may try to have it may try to invest some money to restore that giant Canadian giant. So it'll be the largest non-articulated steam locomotive to operate in Canada. Imagine double heading with quintuple heading with 2816, 2860, and also 3716, and also 2839, which is a four, and also 2816 and 2839 are 464 Royal Hudsons, while 2816 is a non-streamlined
I'm back.
Hudson
Hey, what's up?
H1B, and 3716 is a 280 consolidation.
I see.
73.
Now let's talk about the next
What do you think I'm
locomotive.
talking about?
And what's that?
Duh.
So, Alan, do you want to talk about another steam locomotive that is not operating in the preservation
And you
era?
too.
Maybe
I know one.
Hey,
wait,
know
what
one.
is it, Manuel?
Alan.
Tell me.
Well, it's the one
Alan.
that I was
Wait,
explaining
did
earlier. It
you
was the
tell me
Cotton Belt
something?
Alan.
train, the steam engine, the Cotton Belt one. That's
Yeah.
also preserved.
No,
Do you like-
you know?
819.
like
It
Racing
that but that
Animaniacs?
locomotive operated in excursion
What?
service. We're talking about
Do you
steam
like
locomotives that have
Animaniacs?
not operated in the
Yes, I do
preservation
like
era.
And
Animaniacs.
Tiny
Oh,
Toony.
oh,
Maybe
okay.
you should talk. Maybe we
I
can
love
try
Tiny
talking
Toon.
about the Western Maryland
His name is Bugs
202.
Bunny.
Alan, I'm gonna
All
send
right.
you the link
What?
if you want to read
like
it at
Bugs
Wikipedia.
Bunny.
All right,
Okay.
maybe I could read an or maybe read article.
I'll send you the
read
link
one
to
of that
at Wikipedia to read
Oh,
it.
mine too.
on
Yeah, send it
Discord.
to him. Yeah, send it to him.
Yeah,
me
sure.
too.
I gotta see if I could
Sure.
try reading that.
Hey,
on
Ren
mute.
I'm
Fan.
gonna send it into the comment section.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
the
yeah,
comment
yeah.
section. I'll
Yeah,
see
you
if
should go.
it's actually
Alan,
on the
here you go.
All right, now the comment section here. Wait a minute. I think I gotta copy it, and then maybe I gotta read.
You
I'll
can
be right back.
click in the link and it'll take you there.
I'll be right
Oh
back.
yeah. So it
Yeah.
says here. Where do I start?
You can
should
start
start
from anywhere. Like, just start
Okay,
in the
so
beginning. Just start in the beginning with the
all
words.
right.
You know.
So the Western Maryland Railway number 202 is a preserved 462 Pacific steam locomotive built in 1912 by the Baldwin Locomotive Works for the Western Maryland Railway. The the and the locomotive was used for pulling various passenger trains of the WM over the course of 40 years. In 1938, the locomotive was refitted with Worcester value gear,
It's
replacing
Walshart's
its
valve gear.
Yeah,
Worcester's valve gear, replacing its original valve
Baker valve
gear.
gear.
Baker valve gear. In 1947, it was converted to burn oil and stayed east of Cumberland, and the conversion number 202 pulled its last revenue freight assignment in 1952, and it was subsequently retired and donated to the children of Hagerstown to be displayed in City Park, Hagerstown, Maryland. It is one of only two surviving Western Maryland steam locomotives and the only surviving mainline WM steam locomotive. And then in 1983, number 202 was purchased by John Long, who started an effect who started an effort to restore the locomotive to operating condition, but unfortunately passed away before it could be completed. After he died, ownership of number 202 reverted to the city of Hagerstown in the late 1980s. The line that ran between Cumberland and Frostburg was sold to the then new Western Maryland Scenic Railroad (WMSR), who started looking for a steam locomotive to operate on their trackage. The WSM,
Hello, I'm back.
the
Alright.
WMSR
Hello, I'm back.
and
Hey.
entirely in Italy wanted to restore number 202 since it was an authentic Western Maryland locomotive. However, due to its low tractive effort
It's
and the
tractive
city
effort.
Hmm. Attractive
Yeah.
effort, and the
Right, said
city
that.
of Hagerstown choosing to retain ownership of the locomotive restoration and something operation of number 202 on the WMSR never came
Oh.
to function, and it has been, since remained in the park under the auspices of the Hagerstown City
Yeah.
Park Train Hub.
Alright.
I see.
And then
And
number
then
202 it was
Oh,
spent
and
spent so
go
much
ahead.
time being exposed to the elements and vandals that it was cosmetically restored in 2008 for a cleaner appearance. However, the locomotive still remains in the city park as of 2022. So, guys, do you think the 202 can run again one of these days?
I
It's a
mean, if it's
possibility.
possible, then yes. If it's possible,
But
yes.
not at
Oh
the
yes.
Western Maryland Scenic Railroad. Maybe
No,
for
no, it should run in anywhere other railroads. It should run in
what did
different
you think of
railroads.
my reading?
It was
Yeah.
okay. It was fine. Not bad for first time. Not
Yeah.
bad for first
And
time.
also, I'm gonna
Adam.
read the final
maybe it should
paragraph
run
Adam.
like a
that's right
different
here.
tourist
Adam.
railroad.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rail Fan K
You
Train
like Pulsey
Productions,
Boy?
bro. Let's see if
Somewhere
we can try
like
reading
in
some of
West
that.
Virginia, somewhere like at a tourist
You like
railroad
Pulsey
in
Boy?
West Virginia. But if if
I
a
like
future
the
railroad
Pulsey Boy.
organization called the Maryland Steam Train Association might be able to form in the future, then maybe they can buy the 202 for restoration. And after they buy the 202, they might be able to make a new build steam locomotive for like the Western Maryland J1484 Potomac, like a
I
full
mean, if
size
they have
replica of
enough
number
profits and
1411.
money, then yes. Then yes. If they have enough money
Just
and
like
profits, then
we all know that the T1 number 5550 is
What's he
being
doing?
constructed.
Yes.
yes,
The
that's
guy's
true.
also Alex is also in the live, but he's in
Why,
the
Alex?
Instagram call with
He's
me.
back?
Oh,
He's back.
Anyway, but like, yeah.
Uh,
If any case to answer your question, Alasia, I would say
and then
What's
yes,
wrong
there's-
with Western?
100%.
But
If they
and
have
also
enough
I can't
railroad,
believe how disappointing the Western Maryland Railroad had scrapped a lot of their steam locomotives and only had 2 survivors. Maybe it
Yeah.
might have had a stupid president who doesn't want to preserve any steam engines.
Yeah.
It
I
doesn't really
mean,
surprise
if
me.
the equipment
Yeah, it didn't surprise me either when
trust
I
didn't
first heard of
expire,
that.
if the engines were preserved in the first place before the equipment
Adam.
trusted expired in 1957, then we could have
Adam.
had a lot of Western Maryland steam engines preserved,
Yeah.
like a
I took that Halloween.
5 Western Maryland Potomacs,
I took that
Challengers,
Halloween.
and also 210 I-2-210 decapods,
I took Halloween.
I-1-210 decapods, and also
Yeah,
more
we are very
Alex,
excited for
462s,
Halloween.
more
Just
Shays,
chill.
more
Halloween?
2662s, and a 2882.
Mhm.
And if they
Thirty.
would have been preserved, then one of them could have been running at the Western Maryland Scenic Road instead of
I took that
Lake
Halloween.
Superior Ishpeming number 34, also known as Western
took
Maryland
Halloween.
734, and Chesapeake and Ohio 1309.
I took Shiny Halloween.
Well, whatever they'll do, anything whatever he'll choose. If someone actually chose one of the engines, he would
Like to
not
build a
choose
replica.
30 Percy.
What?
But imagine
You would
if
not choose
someone
30
who
Percy.
has the money, like me, to
What?
build a replica of one of these Western Maryland steam locomotives, then we would have an extinct Western Maryland steam locomotive come back to life. And just imagine that we could, and also I can
yeah.
also imagine if more new
What's he
build
doing?
extinct American steam locomotives were selected for new builds.
What?
It'll be
What?
nice because we have a few like the T1 Trust and the Central Pacific locomotives built.
I see.
Yeah,
in my,
but
in my
anyways,
own
let's talk
perspective,
about the
I
next
would
locomotive.
say,
Yeah.
in my perspective, like Alasia, to answer your question, yes, I would say they should be back on running because first of all, what's the point of building steam engines
What's
if
the
you're not going to
point?
use them? Like, what's the
Yes.
point? What's the point? What's the point of buying or constructing a steam engine that it's not used for anything? Like, why preserve it?
Why?
Like,
why scrap most of your steam engines because of how iconic your machines are? Just like the New York
I mean, it would have
Central
been
Hudsons, a
understandable
lot
if they
of
were
people
scrapped
love
by
them.
the accident or something, but
275
that would make
Hudsons were
sense.
built, and they had great
Hey, Adam.
performance, just like the Niagaras. And those New
Adam.
Haven I-5 locomotives, they used to run in my state
Adam.
because in the New York, New Haven, and Hartford Railroad, aka the New
Adam.
Haven Railroad for short, and the New Haven.
Hello.
And also the new,
Hello.
and also cruising passengers loved them for their speed and their
Hello.
style, even though they couldn't reach at their full potential. The I-5 Hudsons. I mean, I would love to see one of these built, and I would love to. And also those Delaware and the Union Pacific Early Challengers, also known as the Feder Challengers. Those were the first ever challenge type steam locomotives built right before 3985 was built, because 3985 and 3977 were heavy heavy challenges that were built in 1943, and the Feder Challengers were built in 1936, the first ever challengers ever built. Imagine seeing one around would be nice, but someone should build a replica of the early Feder Challengers. I don't care if it's a replica or the next additional member, number 3840. That should definitely happen in the future. You with me?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
But anyways, let's talk about another locomotive, like the Central of Georgia Railway number 509.
Yes.
What's it called? The engine?
Central
yeah.
of Georgia 509.
What are you talking about?
509. Got it.
What are you
Central
talking
of Georgia 509.
Oh, Georgia. That's what we're
Of
talking about.
Georgia.
I'm talking about the Central of Georgia steam locomotive, the Central Railroad of New Jersey, the Central
509?
of Georgia Railroad steam locomotive number 509.
I got it. Can I read it? I got it.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead. Okay.
You should read the history.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Go ahead.
Okay. So the Central of Georgia Railway, or COFG for short, 509 was built by the Baldwin Locomotive Works as one of the 24 C-4 class steam locomotives for the railway in the December of 1906. This was the fourth generation in the C-class series that was delivered to COFG, or in other words, the Central of Georgia Railway. The locomotive was originally built under road number 1709, along with the other C-4 locomotives, consisting of numbers from 1700 to 1724. It was then renumbered in 1925 to the current number of 509. COFG started to increase its numbers in more powerful steam locomotives and C-4 class locomotives. They were then put to the branch line use, while some of the C-4 locomotives were used for switching, and others were operating between Marcon, Athens, Gordon, Milledgeville,
or Macon, Georgia.
Marshallville,
Yeah,
Martin, and Porterdale, I think. Yep, Porterdale, Florida, right? Or is it Fort Lauderdale? I don't know. Like
Porterdale.
Oh,
Yeah,
Porterdale.
Porterdale.
Okay. Porterdale. There we go. Got it. All right. Okay. Where was I? Oh yeah. As the use of steam engines declined and they were replaced with diesels, most of the C-4 locomotives were retired by September 1950, with the rest of the C-4 locomotives retired in the next 3 years. God damn. 509 was selected as one of the few engines to kept being for preservation by COFG. A letter from November 12, 1953 stated that one 450 class engine, one 500 class engine, and one engine that is the smallest and the oldest were to be kept. They would be placed in various places in Georgia. The 500 are located to Macon, or what was it called? Like Macon.
It's Macon.
Oh,
Yes,
Macon. All right, got it. Macon. The 450 to Columbus, and the smallest to Savannah. The letter stated that the engines should be kept under cover to prevent deterioration. In 1959, COFG decided they would transfer 509 to the city of Macon. Macon, sorry. Before being transferred, 509 received a brand new wooden cow catcher, a fresh coat of paint, and new standstills. In order to move the locomotive to the display area, which did not have direct rail access, temporary track was laid and part of a brick wall was removed. On October 16, 1959. Oh my God, that's today, October 16. Wow, is this October 16? Wow, and it's today.
Yeah,
wow.
that's like that's like some kind of anniversary. I think that's like the 63rd anniversary because of this.
October.
Oh my God! Wow. Okay. Anyway, on
Yeah,
October
because-
16, 19. Oh God, I got something. Okay, 1959, the locomotive was officially handed over to the city of Macun. Since then, it has been sitting in the Central City Park as a display along with other railroad monuments. Most of the other railroad monuments are no longer standing. One of the only ones left that are still standing even today are Locomotive
Nick.
509 and an old COFG coaling tower. Wow. Damn. All right. Anyway, this is the last one. Okay. Outside the display is a plaque in memory of a band of Benny A. Scott. He was a locomotive's fireman for the last run of 509 and was also the railroad's first black fireman. Oh wow. Because I know how it was in the 60s with with the whole race and everything. Wow. Over the years, 509 has stayed in its place with little action. It was repainted in 1999 for a project on a children's television network and was decorated with what looked to be Christmas lights. The right of way. Oh, I thought that was gonna be the Polar Express. Oh my God, I thought that.
I believe it didn't exist
Oh, yeah.
at that time because the Polar Express
that's
might
true.
have existed. The movie didn't existed in the 1990s. But
I mean,
because
yeah,
it
I
was
mean,
released in
understandable.
November of 2004, that was like 1 month after I was born, October 12th, Tuesday, October 12th, 2004.
Oh wow, damn.
Oh,
Anyway,
wow. Cute.
anyway, the right of way was published in an article in 2011 about 509 and discussed the complete restoration. Wait,
2011?
restoration. Okay,
Okay.
restoration of the locomotive to fully operationally conditioned by Hartwell Railroad Company in Brownsville, Georgia. The cost of the restoration was estimated to be around $450,000. Damn, that's a lot of money. The
Wow.
Yeah,
locomotive was
if I had
Yeah.
I mean, like, if I had the money,
I mean,
then
that
I
was
would
nice.
donate to that organization.
Bro, that's
And-
even more expensive
Bro,
than Jenny's
yeah.
death because she had to pay. You know how much she had to pay because
Yeah.
of what she did of that destruction? $800 million. $800 million just to pay her rent. Jesus Christ.
That
That's-
is-
Wow, that's a lot of
Wow,
money.
yeah, cool.
That
That's
happened
a-
in the My Life as a
exactly.
Teenage
Yeah,
Robot episode.
album.
Yeah, it's Labor
Yeah.
Day. It's from season 3. Labor Day.
Let me date.
Is that episode? It's
Isn't
because
one
she
of
did a
the worst
stunt. She
episodes
did
of
a
season
stunt.
3?
Not only she destroyed the school,
Yeah,
but she
Adam,
destroyed
what did you do?
a whole
Like
bunch
South
of
Park.
property. So that makes understandable
Hey,
why.
Adam.
She also destroyed
Is
the
it one of
Statue
the
Liberty.
worst? Is that episode one of
Yeah.
the worst?
What'd you
Is it
do
one
with
of the
No,
worst
it
My
had
Life
a
as a
good
Teenage Robot
ending
episodes
though.
of
It had
season
a good
3?
ending. No,
What
it had a
about
good
South
ending.
Park?
The guy, but however, the Donald
like
Trump
South
character
Park.
was actually, or
Wait,
Bryce.
you like
actually,
South
I
Park
call him
now,
that.
Race?
Yeah,
I
it's
just
not
call him,
coming
I'll
on
just call him
Century.
Bryce.
That is a
No.
lot of money. The same with
Like-
one of
Oh, thanks, Alan.
one of the Go Anime grounded videos and Kaidor and Little Brothers grounded. Every time they cause massive genocide and destruction in the city, they would have
Hey,
to
Adam.
pay like
Yeah.
thousands or millions and billions and
exactly.
trillions and
Sucks.
quadrillion or one Googleplex,
What?
Googleplex
What's
the
that
dollars.
episode,
Google?
but like
From
the episode,
Thanks.
You know what
that
I'm trying to
episode
say?
was but that wasn't the worst episode.
Oh,
I like that
um,
episode. It does explain how America is, honestly, with whole capitalist and everything.
Bro,
Honestly, it just reminds me of that, actually, with money.
And
struggle
guys,
and
do you
everything.
think the 509 should
Guys.
run again?
Hey,
Yes.
Emmanuel Elijah, there's something that Race is trying to tell me.
Well, go ahead, Reese.
I like South Park. So,
Diego was here.
I like Comedy on Century.
What?
Actually, South Park is on the channel Comedy Central. I've watched that on
And
that
actually,
Paramount
channel.
Plus.
Comedy Central.
Yeah, it's on Paramount Plus if you watch South
Oh
Park
yeah,
on
Paramount
it.
Plus. Yeah,
And
they also had My
HBO
Life
Max.
Robot there too. They also had My Life Robot
What?
there too. Yeah, they did. You guys didn't, you guys didn't know
I'm
that.
also
They had to
I
put it
want
Paramount
Paramount-
Plus.
Because I saw
I
that
also
in
want
Cole
Paramount Plus.
Seaboy's video when
I
he
have
saw
Paramount Plus,
South
I watch
Park
it.
on HBO Max. But you could watch South Park since you'll like it.
Is
Oh,
Emma the
HBO
Tour?
Max. That's where I watched the Chernobyl disaster. That's what I watched. The
Wait,
Chernobyl
what'd you
movie.
say?
Is Emma the Tour TBNA? Why?
Guys, I also want HBO Max, but due to
Everyone
many
likes South Park.
subscriptions, I would like
even-
to.
Yeah,
I
South
mean,
Park's
if I had,
13
like,
up.
a lot of. If my
Wait,
mom
Since
has
you're
like a lot of
13,
money, then
you're
I
allowed
would
to
on
watch
get
South Park.
Paramount Plus and watch My Love Is a Teenage Robot
Bro.
along with the Loud House.
Oh yeah,
SpongeBob
that's
the
true. You
Loud
have to pay
House.
money
Too.
for watching My Life Teenage
Nickelodeon.
Robot, which honestly,
I
money's
like
not the problem
the
for me
Loud House.
actually. Because I do have a part-time job actually.
What's
I
your
work
part-time?
at a store as a clerk. I work there actually just to pay off my money. Pay off money, get my own allowance. That kind of way.
What?
And honestly, I've been making good money. I've been making good money with as working as a clerk store. Actually, I make good money. Like,
All right,
each
let's
many
talk
hours, I
about
end up getting at
another
least
locomotive.
$100
Let's talk about
for each
another
hour,
locomotive.
actually.
Let's talk about another locomotive.
All right, go ahead.
The
But
Canadian
Alicia,
National
but another
6400.
question. But like, you were asking me if that was the worst episode of My Nature. But for me, no, it was not. It was not. It was not a worst episode. It had a happy ending, which is good. A guy actually did pay off Jenny's debt because he was actually a millionaire, but he was a nice millionaire, so he paid off the fees of Jenny. So yeah,
And
it
did
basically ended a
Jenny?
good.
What happened to Jenny? Did she got alive?
Always.
Well, she didn't. Well, in the end, she had to offer him a pay because first of all, he has to, like she has to owe him something, and of course, she kept digging because the guy said he wants everything to be digged, because he wanted to bury something else. So he did. So she did, and of course,
And all right, let's talk about another locomotive.
But it ended
Like-
in a good ending. It was funny
Like
the ending
what?
and everything. It was good. For me,
All
it
right,
was
let's
good.
talk about the Grand Trunk Western
let's do
U4A
it, boys.
484 Confederation type steam locomotive number 6400, and it looks like Vinny from Thomas and Friends.
It does. Okay,
I
what's
like
the
Thomas
engine? What's the
Me
engine
too.
called? Engine called?
Canadian National 6400.
Oh, Canadian National, dude. Oh man, dude.
Canadian National 6400.
Dude, Canadian
Okay.
National, dude. Like, don't you know about the history about the Canadian National, dude? Like,
I'm
Dang.
talking about the Canadian National. I'm talking about the locomotive, the Canadian National Railway number
Yeah,
6400.
I know. But do you know
Yeah,
about
yeah,
most of
yeah.
the
Whoa,
most
whoa,
of the
whoa.
history about that train, though? Like, you know about those
Yeah,
kind
I
of
know
history.
that because it was the first. All right, so
What do you
spoiler
think we
alert,
talk
I'll
about?
be able to talk about it. So,
Okay.
the
All
Canadian
right, then I'll do it
National
then.
6400 is a 484 Northern type steam locomotive that was built by the Locomotive Works in 1930, built in June of 1936 for the Canadian National Railway. It was the first member of the 5 streamlined U4A class 6400 series of steam engines to be delivered, which first streamlined steam locomotives in
Is
Canada.
that Sheen fan 2008? Sheen Weasel fan 2008.
And Manuel, hear me.
Up.
So the 6400 in particular is the most famous and
Stop.
notable, having pulled the 1939 Royal Train and participating as an attraction at the 1939 New York World's Fair.
But I also have another
Along
question
with,
too.
unfortunately, the Pennsylvania
Like, do
Railroad
these
S1
Canadian, like, do
JPS
these
58
steam
Express
engines
1.
ever been preserved
And
as
also the
railway
Pennsylvania
museums,
Railroad
like tourists or
7002,
something?
one was renumbered to 8063 too, and also the Western Atlantic number 3, the General, which also participated at the 1939 New York World's Fair, and also one of the New York Central Streamline Dreyfus Hudsons, and the New Haven I-5 Hudson number 1400 and Delaware and Hudson P1462 Pacific number 653, and which 1278 actually Canadian Pacific 1278 actually disguised as the 653, and it looked way better than the actual 653 because the 653 one from the Delaware and Hudson Railroad, it kind of looks ugly as heck to me.
Ugly, yeah, I know.
Because one of the Delaware, sometimes one of the ugly steam locomotives by the Delaware and Hudson, that's one reason why I really don't like about the DNA. And this is one of the reasons why I prefer the New York, New Haven, and Hartford Railroad the most. You agree?
Yeah, Ukraine, but first of all, I don't want to talk about most of the Ukraine stuff and what's going on.
I didn't meant the Ukraine.
I
meant
meant
the New
Oh,
Haven
sorry.
locomotive.
I'm sorry, I got
the New
confused for a
Haven.
second. I got confused.
I meant the New
you
Haven
hate
locomotive.
Sergeant Greg?
The New
Oh,
Haven
the New
Railroad
Haven!
locomotive.
Oh, I always wanted to talk about that. I always wanted to know that.
I meant the
First
New
engine.
Haven Railroad I-5 class 462.
You
I
hate-
meant the
Yeah,
New
I know
Haven
what you meant. I know
Because
what you
the
meant.
New Haven Railroad, they have so many iconic locomotives, including their 10 streamlined I-5 Hudsons, better than those ugly Delaware and Hudson Railroad locomotives because the New Haven Railroad I-5 locomotives are the best extinct locomotives. Why couldn't you just preserve 6 of them? There could have been at least 4 in excursions. That's very sad. We definitely need a replica of one of these to be built. But anyways, this locomotive, the Canadian National Railway 6400, was sometime withdrawn between 1960 with the remaining U4As being retired by 1961. And then the locomotive was eventually preserved and miraculously saved, offered and donated and put up on static display at the museum of Science and Technology Museum in Ottawa, Canada, where it has been preserved since 1967. You've been to the Canada Science and Technology Museum, Manuel?
I think I have. Actually, not 100%. Now that I'm thinking about it, no, I never. I wish I could go actually, but with the whole
Yeah,
money,
imagine if you
no.
could meet
wait,
us
what?
without
I mean, if I
it.
could, if I had enough money to go there, then yes,
Why is
yes,
that doing?
definitely.
The same
I
with
would.
me, because sometimes it
Yeah.
can be a little bit far from Canada, because I'm only like 5 hours and 40 minutes away from Montreal, Canada, and six
Well, where
hours
I
and
live,
40
it's pretty
minutes
far
from
away, dude. It takes like I
Ottawa,
don't know, like a day or
Canada.
so, like at least 70 hours or so,
And
or more
also
than
I'm
that.
like 7 hours from Toronto, and
Yep.
or mostly 8 hours and nine hours
Oh
away
wait,
from from like Niagara Falls, Canada. And
Niagara
do you
Falls.
think
Oh
the
yeah, Niagara Falls.
6400
Yeah, I heard about that. I heard
and do
that
you think the
waterfall.
Grand Trunk Western
Yes,
do you think the Canadian National 6400 should run again?
It should run again, dude.
Oh
Like
yeah,
all
dude.
these steam
And it should
engines, like
be one of
they're not
another
only there to like
Why
they're
is it
not there to
just-
just
Yeah, and
show.
it's
They're
also
supposed to be
streamlined.
Yeah,
built,
we put
you know?
down.
The locomotive
They're
is also
steam
streamlined. The locomotive is also streamlined like Southern Pacific 4449, Norfolk and Western 611, and also the sometimes Southern Pacific 4460, and also the Nashville, Chattanooga, and St. Louis 576, even though it has its bullet-nosed, streamlined nose shape.
I see.
Imagine
And just out of
if it was
curiosity,
restored
though,
and it used
Yeah.
that type of streamlined nose cone, just like that looks like the New Haven Railroad I-5 locomotives, then it would be another streamlined considered a streamlined locomotive in
it would have
excursions.
been more like something that we just don't want to see or something, you know, or maybe something that we just didn't expect it, you know.
Yeah, but a lot of streamlined steam locomotives in America are extinct. Why just preserve more of streamlined steam engines? That
I mean-
could have been a better idea.
That is true. It is true.
But at least we're
Well-
getting one streamlined steam locomotive, a new build, which is the Pennsylvania T1 number 5550.
Oh, yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. We're
Yeah.
definitely more
Yeah.
extinct American steam locomotives, sometimes even Canadian ones,
But
besides.
I mean, like, what do you guys think in
British
any other
ones,
countries? Like, what do you guys
besides
think
the
did most of the
Why-
building, honestly? Do you think United States made the most powerful steam engines, or is it British? What do you guys think?
Yeah, they made most of the
Which
most
one?
powerful steam engines
Yeah, who made them?
Why do you
British
think
or
because of
American?
articulated steam locomotives. And also,
what was
Russia
the
tried to
answer?
do the
Oh.
same but with their USSR A820 414 or over Earth type wheel arrangement steam locomotive was considered a failure. And that 210 piston driven locomotive, it was a failure and it made it too complicated to run. And also, they also had only 4 to A84 Yellowstone type steam locomotives, and they were classified as the P38 to A84 Yellowstones. Imagine those being preserved. Manuel, agree?
I mean, those being preserved. I mean, like, first of all, not only it's very
Yeah,
sad
what you
and
talking
all, but
about?
it's very, very disappointing, you know? Like, why would you build a steam engine, but you're not going to use it? Like, what's the point? They're there.
What's the point of
to-
it? Why just
Exactly.
use it for mainline
Yeah,
excursions?
who knows?
Or sometimes you would use it for many of your railroad lines and
Exactly.
make it act like Union
Now.
Pacific 844 when it never.
Exactly.
Just look at Union
Exactly. You
Pacific
got my word. You got my
844.
word.
It's
Exactly.
the one only steam locomotive that never retired from active service. It still runs
Exactly.
has been running since December 24th of Christmas Eve, December 24th of 1944. That's the
Jesus
date when it was
Christ, it
built.
only had a long career, dude. It didn't even have a long career. Wow.
Why couldn't you just use another type of locomotive
Yeah,
that would be
no.
like
It's because,
844 like in
remember, dude,
Canada?
like, the year
I mean, the
was
Canadian Pacific
1957
should
or
have done
something. It
that
was
with.
like in the 50s or the 40s, dude. Like, everybody didn't want to stop using steam engines, and they want to do new engines like the diesel locomotives that we have even to this day.
Which is
Probably
boring. Which is
You
boring as
thinking-
hell.
I
now.
mean,
Wow.
diesel engines are boring and all, but I prefer the steam engines. I mean, it's history, dude. You're just blocking history.
You're
That's
just
like if
blocking
people
history,
didn't know
just
about
like
the
you're
about the
changing
war that we
history.
happened. Remember? Like, it's like saying that we don't know about the World War II war, like the wars. Like, we
And
don't know
also
history, you know?
about the Canadian National
Wow.
6400 locomotive, it was also
You
it looked
freaking
like
God.
Vinny from Thompson Friends because although Vinny was numbered as a Grand Trunk Western 6407,
Oh yeah,
But
definitely.
imagine if it was actually a Canadian National 6400, then it would have been the first Canadian steam locomotive in Thomas and Friends.
Oh, if it was, then that would be really good. You know, it would be really cool.
But
Not gonna lie.
imagine if another Canadian Pacific locomotive appeared in
You
Thomas and Friends, then
again.
it'll have to be 2016. Then it
Oh
will
yeah,
call
me
it the
too.
Emperor.
I mean, what about Hank though?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
what is this based off actually? Hank,
What's
the
his
engine
face?
from Thomas.
Well, he was going to be based off of Union
Yeah.
Pacific Heavy Challenger 3985 in 2007, but due to him being extremely heavy as an articulated locomotive, they chose him to be a K4 462 Pacific number 1361.
A K4, really? Wow.
Yeah, and also, right until 2015, where Sam the Virginian engine, the Virginian Blue articulated, was the first articulated engine to be in Thomas.
Yeah, of course. I mean, first of all,
But
we all know that
imagine
everyone
Hank
first
as a
engine to ride on
challenger, it would be
silver.
nice.
Yeah, dude. But I mean, like, dude, like sometimes, like, whenever I watch like one of those kind of videos of world's most amazing videos, I mean, there's always a lot about how people record videos of how like they see or witness a train accident. You know, a lot of people have those kind of stuff. I mean, that's where I get some of my videos from either the show or from Runaway Trains from the River, Michigan, that posted that video of Runaway Trains. You know.
And yeah, and also let's talk about another steam locomotive that is not operated in the preservation era.
All right, can you
Like
send me a
the
link for it?
Baltimore,
Yeah.
Ohio 5300.
Oh, that one. Yeah.
The
guys.
Baltimore, Ohio
Yeah, what's up, real fan?
5300.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
okay.
probably go
Talk
ahead and
about the
go.
5300.
You have to go, bro?
Yeah, I have to go.
Oh, all right. See ya, bro. See ya.
See
We have
ya.
to talk
See
about
ya.
the Baltimore
Yeah,
5300.
bro. Hey, bro, I'm a fan of your show. Okay, I'm a fan of your
Yeah.
channel, dude. Dude, Rail Fan K. He's the one that
Thank you
got me
much.
into train wrecks. Actually, he was the one that got me into train wrecks, dude. Oh man, bro,
Yeah.
that guy was the man. He was the man.
So
Yeah,
wow.
let's talk about the Baltimore, Ohio 5300.
I'll be right back.
Okay, send me the link for it because I'm trying to find it in Wikipedia, but I can't. It doesn't say anything. What the heck? What does that even mean? I'm trying to search it. What the? Okay, can you send me the link, please? Because it
I'll
doesn't let
send
me
you the
pop.
Baltimore, Ohio 5300.
Thank you. Because like this thing is very hard. I don't know what's wrong with my
We're
computer. My
gonna because it's a top 20 list, we to talk about them quickly.
Okay, let's touch on them quickly. Yes. Ooh, the HMHS Britannic. Wow, I love that ship.
The Baltimore, Ohio 5300.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. I got a little distracted here because, like, you know, I'm sometimes into trains and sometimes into planes and everything. You name them, any transportation. All right, but I got it. All right, you want me to read it? The history?
You can read it, Manuel, quickly,
Okay.
because this is a top 20 list. We don't
Oh,
want
okay.
to go all
All
over
right.
the round.
Baltimore and Ohio number 353,000 was also known as the President Washington, is a sole survivor of the P-7 class 4.4-6-2 Pacific type steam locomotives. It was built by Baldwin in 1927, and it was used on mainline passenger trains across the Baltimore and Ohio system, particularly the Royal Blue Train, until it was retired in 1957. After being stored for a few years, it was donated to the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad Museum in Baltimore, Maryland, where it has spent several years on static display. The locomotive is pending for a cosmetic refurbishment as of 2022. Oh wow, damn! Even still is to this day. Wow, even in 2022. Oh, okay. Okay. The history. The original service life. Between 1906 and 1928, the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad, the first Class 1 railroad to be incorporated in the United States, ordered over 200 Class 4-6-2 Pacific type steam locomotives from the Baldwin Locomotive Works of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, primarily to be used in passenger trains. The final production of class of 4-6-2 locomotives was the P-7 class, of which 20 of them were built and delivered to Baldwin in 1927, being numbered 5300-5319. This class was olive green, gold, and maroon locomotives was officially named the President class, since all 20 of the locomotives were named after the first 20 presidents of the United States, and number 5,300 was named after George Washington. Oh wow, this thing has a lot of history. Wow, amazing. All right. Shortly after number 5300 rolled out of the factory in February 1927, it was coupled to the Capital Limited train to take part in a Fair of Iron Horse. And now Capital Limited is the Amtrak train. They call it the Amtrak train in Illinois. It's actually in Chicago, I think. Fair of the Iron Horse, or Fair of the Iron Horse, a celebration of the century of the BOO, the BNO, alongside several with other BAO steam locomotives after the fair ended. Number 3000 was put into service, pulling the Royal Blue passenger train between Washington, D.C. and New York City, as well as the Capital Limited between New York and Chicago, Illinois. The locomotives were rarely made in any water stops along the way, as the tender was designed with a water scoop. Oh, wow. Damn, this thing has got modern technology. This allowed for refilling while traveling on track pans. In 1944, number 3000 was rebuilt with a semi-steamed lined tender, and its original olive green livery was replaced with the BO's standard solid blue livery, with its name
Yeah,
subsequently being.
because I prefer the royal blue livery instead of the current olive green. But imagine if it was cosmetically restored in its solid blue livery, it would
And
be
yeah,
cool.
I love
this engine had a good career. Look,
I
it
love
says it
that.
was named after the first 20 presidents of the United States. Like, wow.
George
Like,
Washington,
yep,
who
George Washington.
was
Aldo.
involved in the Boston Tea Party and
Hey,
was
Aldo.
with the Declaration
Well,
of
Boston Tea
Independence.
Party, that's another
Yeah.
story.
I'm
That's
back.
another
Don't forget the
story, dude.
Articles of Confederation and the
Hmm?
signing of the
I'm
U.S.
back alive.
Constitution. And did you know that he
No,
had
don't forget
wooden
about the
teeth?
Declaration of Independence, too. Don't forget about
Yeah,
that.
and
Yeah.
also he had wooden
I
teeth,
know.
meaning that he didn't brush his teeth. There were no toothbrushes and toothpaste at the time.
Yeah, exactly. There wasn't like that. We don't have those
Nowadays
technologies.
there are. Imagine if he
Yeah,
took
and
care of
that's
his
good.
teeth. Imagine if he took
Anyway,
care
I also
of
want to
his
talk
teeth,
about
then
the
he
other
could have had
engines,
a
too.
longer life, and then he would have been the first person at the White House.
True. The locomotive was also regained a modern two-sealed beam headlight in 1951. Also, the BAO began purchasing diesel locomotives. A lot of the P-Class 4-6-2s were removed from the active roster, and those that were left were reassigned to secondary passenger service in Pennsylvania and Ohio. By 1956, number 3000 was among only 53 P-Class 4-6-2 left on the roster, and with the 5000 series given to locomotives from EMD. No, number 3000 was renumbered 100, and the rest was the active 4-6-2s were renumbered to 101-152. The following year, President Washington completed its last reunion freight assignment before it was retired from the roster, completing 30 years after reunion
It is
service, and it
definitely.
was Reneview
It was
service,
sidelined for storage.
Yeah.
Then the
and it was
preservation.
sidelined for storage. Yep. All right. Go ahead. You can read the
Preservation.
preservation. Actually, you read the preservation.
Yeah.
The
Yeah. Go ahead.
The
The locomotive was purchased
Go.
with 282 number 4500 for safekeeping and donation by Ed Striegel of Striegel Supply
I'll be right
and
back,
Equipment
guys. Hang on.
Corporation, a business on Chemical Road in Curtis Bay, Maryland. Mr. Striegel bought railroad equipment for parting out and future sales to other railroads, and this was not the case for the steam locomotives on the property. Upon Mr. Striegel's death, the Baltimore Sun wrote, "The 1950s, while visiting a storage lot for decommissioned B&O steam engines, Mr. Striegel discovered historically significant locomotives. The President Washington number 100, and the high-wheeling Pacific class that had pulled such classic trains as the Capital Limited, and a Q328 Mikado type locomotive that had been built in 1918. He salvaged them and donated them to the Baltimore, Ohio Railroad Museum. And they are linchpins of our collection," said Courtney B. Wilson. Executive director of the museum, Ed, saved two significant pieces for the museum.
Right?
And without
Yeah.
his help, they would have been lost forever, he said.
Yeah.
In my opinion, he was a phenomenal Baltimorean. He was a quiet, unassuming, and very generous guy. The museum was his favorite place to come, and he was always looking for ways to improve and enhance his collections, Mr. Wilson said.
Oh yeah. Good. Good job.
And then
Oh,
during the winter season,
yeah.
and then in 2006, Number 5300 was put inside in one of the museum's buildings to remain safe outside of the elements and received a flash repaint in its original olive green color. During the winter seasons, the locomotive has been temporarily been re-lettered to the Polar Express to promote the museum's Polar Express theme excursion trains. On August 28th of 2021, the number 5300 was moved from static display and towed to the museum's shop for a cosmetic refurbishment. And the cosmetic restoration will likely take over several years. And it's the sole survivor of and prototype of the P7 class, and it's the last out of the 200 462 Pacifics ever built for the Baltimore and Ohio left to survive the scrapper's torch. Number 5300 is one of only three B&O locomotives left that were built within the 21st century. The only two other two locomotives are 282 Mikado number 4500 mentioned earlier, which is also preserved at the museum, and an 060 number 1190, which is preserved at the HF Steam Roundhouse in Sugar Creek, Ohio.
Wow, good job.
I mean, it's like disappointing how the B&O couldn't preserve more of their locomotives. Would you agree on that?
I would agree with that. I'm back.
Replicas of these B&O locomotives. Instead of having only one T1 number 5550 duplex locomotive, we should have more extinct B&O locomotives.
Definitely. Like, they should not be just preserved. They should be, like, more into service, like pulling passengers or freight train, you know? Just like a mixed traffic engine, like how in Thomas.
And now we can talk about the 4500, Baltimore and Ohio 4500.
How many do we need? Most of them, actually. How many are we going to need? How much is it? You know?
We need 4500.
That's it?
I'm talking, we need to talk about the Baltimore and Ohio 4500.
Oh, but like, is that the last engine that we're going to talk about, or no?
We're going to talk about 4 more engines. The 4500 is going to be a short one. I left you the link in the comment section.
All right, okay. I already have it ready. Who wants to read it? Because I already read the first one.
Oh,
Someone
yes,
read
me.
All right, go ahead.
Which one?
The one that he sent a link.
Locomotive 4500. It's in the comments section of the stream. You can press the link.
Come to October 1st on Tuesday. Oh, okay.
You got it?
It's the Baltimore and Ohio 4500.
Okay.
Oh, I can't. I'm scared.
Don't worry, dude. Don't get nervous. Alan, do you want to read it?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, I'll read it.
Yeah. We're gonna take turns, okay? One of us reads one and another, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Yes, sir.
All right. And then me
whenever you're ready.
First. Do I read the first paragraph?
Yeah, you read the first paragraph.
Right.
Yeah, read that.
The locomotive, the locomotive was the very first USRA locomotive built, and it was constructed in just 20 days. It was also finished on July 4th, 1918, and it was decked out with American flags for the association. While it has mostly remained as much as built mechanically, it received some of B&O's distinctive cosmetic changes throughout its service life, but the locomotive retains the original tender and trailing truck. During its service life, the locomotive was in freight service primarily on the Ohio and St. Louis divisions of the railroad. And do I do the second one? Okay.
Yeah.
The Baltimore and Ohio Railroad number.
Yeah, read the second one.
Yeah, read the second one.
Yeah, go.
The Baltimore and Ohio Railroad number 4500 and a class Q3282 Mikado type steam locomotive built by the Baldwin Locomotive Works in 1918. Following America's entry to World War I, the USRA nationalized the nation's railroad system in the interest of ensuring the most efficient operations. Possibly, ironically, World War One has almost over when number 4500 was ready for service on July 4th, 1918. Like the other USRA designs, number 4500 was sturdy, functional, and popular with the maintenance and locomotive crews. It was also popular with the railroad companies, and a total of 641 copies of the type were produced by different U.S. railroads in the years following the war. The Baltimore and
Now,
Ohio.
Oh yeah.
now you should talk about when it was retired. What
Yeah, go
it
ahead.
was like the number 4500 operated on the B&O's Ohio division, mainly hauling freight until it was retired from
Hmm?
service in 1957, and it was donated to the
Uh,
B&O Museum in 1960 when it was placed on.
guys,
What?
I think my bedtime is here again because
Oh
of
yeah.
my school. Anyways, uh, thank you for letting me in this live, and I'll see you
Uh,
guys next time. And
all right, see ya,
See you
Alan.
next Sunday.
bye, Elijah and Manuel.
All right,
Bye,
but we
bro.
can continue
Bye.
about the 4500.
Well, we can continue, but just like
Wait.
stay up with the live stream. Like at least watch the live stream
See
a
you
little bit.
next Sunday. See you
Yeah.
next Sunday.
Or see ya in a couple of days, just in
So in
case we get a touch.
1957, the locomotive was renumbered 300 to make room for
Yeah.
4 freight diesel locomotives. Now let's talk about another locomotive, the Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy 484 Northern, number 5629. We can start with its fallen sibling 5632, Manuel.
Yep. All right. Send the link in the Wikipedia thing.
So the Chicago,
was
Burlington,
on
and
the
Quincy
link.
5632 was built at the Burlington's own Iowa shops in Burlington, Iowa. Shopped in August of 1940. It pulled both passenger and freight trains all over the CB&Q system until being retired in the 1950s.
I see.
Then, the 5632 was spared from the scrapper's torch and saved by the railroad's CB&Q's President Harry C. Murphy and used for public excursions on the Burlington Northern's popular steam excursion program.
Oh
Then
yeah.
it was returned to steam in time for a November 2nd, 1950 excursion between Chicago and Galesburg, Illinois, to honor the CB&Q's famous passenger train, the Aristocrat. Number 5632 became a rail fan favorite and continued to pull excursions until 1964, when it became apparent that the locomotive is in need of an overhaul. And also, in 1959, the 5632 ran a double-header trip between Chicago and Galesburg, Illinois, with 282 Colorado type, and also the 210 Texas four-wheel arrangement on the Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy. Instead of calling them Texas or Selkirks, the CB&Q decided to name their engines Colorados, named after the Colorado Rocky Mountains, right? Manuel.
Yeah, the mountain. I know that.
And they also the 5632 also ran the doubleheader excursion between Chicago and Galesburg, Illinois, with 282 Colorado type number 6315. And during the trip, number 6315 lost both of its eccentric rods and could not continue under its own power. The reason for this is because it's designed for freight 8 trains, and imagine if it had larger diameter driving wheels, then it wouldn't have had these problems.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, and they would have had the same diameter driving wheels as the 5632. Imagine that. And then the 5632 pushed the 6315 the rest of the excursion train way to Galesburg while also pulling the excursion train. And then the 6315 sat with younger sister engine number 6318 at the scrap line in 1959, and then they were both tragically scrapped in 1964. But imagine if they actually preserved it, then the 6315 would have had eccentric rods installed at the Illinois Railway Museum, and they would have been on display, and also the 6319 at the Colorado Railway Museum. And then we would have had more 210-4s preserved. Imagine that, Manuel.
Well, I would imagine that, and that would be like, I
Yeah,
mean, that
who
would be
knows?
cool. I'm not gonna lie.
And
That would have
imagine a
been.
replica should be
Yeah,
built.
sure.
And
Yeah.
then
Oh,
in
replica, definitely,
1964,
definitely.
Oh yeah.
in
Definitely.
1964, the 5632, and during the 100th anniversary of the CB&Q's commuter train service to Chicago on the CB&Q's main line between Chicago and Aurora, Illinois, number 5632 gained the title of the world's largest brass model, which he was painted gold to commemorate the occasion. Agent where made a trip to Kansas City, Kansas to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the completion of the Kansas City's Union Station. But tragically, the 5632's look began to change. The locomotive was disassembled for an overhaul mentioned earlier, and because because CB&Q President Harry C. Murphy wanted the locomotive to be overhauled. But the next year, in 1965,
yeah.
Murray had retired as president of the CB&Q, and his successor, Lewis W. And also he discontinued the steam program in order of the overhaul of the number 5632 to be canceled. And then, and while Harry C. Murphy was president at that time during the CB&Q steam program, the 5632 had a great time along with 282 Mikado number 4960 and also a CB&Q 464 Hudson, I believe, number 3003, which might have, or 3006. I think it's 3003 that might have operated an excursion, and it would be considered an excursion star, I guess, Manuel?
Yep, definitely. Honestly.
Yeah.
And also because it's a 464 Hudson. I forgot the classification of the locomotive, but I'm gonna search it up later after this live is done. And also, while Harry C. Murphy was president, he was like a fun guy who loves steam locomotives during the CB&Q steam.
So he's like a rail fanner, kinda. He was like a rail
yes,
fanner.
see, like a steam locomotive rail fan enthusiast.
I mean, I would rail fan too, you know. I mean,
Yes,
I still like trains.
Oh, yeah.
I just don't like recording as much, though. I just like watching trains without recording.
Yes. And when Mank took over, he wasn't interested in running steam because he was more such of a boring kind of guy. He it was all about the money. Like, we're only going to run diesels. These steam engines have got to go.
Wow.
Okay,
And then he sold the 56.
Okay, that was funny. I get your thing. I get your.
And then he sold the 5632 to Richard Jensen, or Dick Jensen.
Oh my god.
Because that's what they call Richard. That's what they call for Richard. The same with Dick Dastardly from Wacky Races.
Oh yeah.
And
that's
also,
true.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know if it would be even worse if it was bought by, Steamtown National Historic Site in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Because apparently, if the 5630, if it and the 4916 and if the 3003 and also the 6315 and also it might have been sold to Richard Johnson too, the 6315 mentioned early, which I didn't get to mention. But imagine if it was bought at Blount at the time, then it was most likely to pass away. But truly, F. Nelson Blount actually passed away in 1967, so he should have bought these locomotives. Well, it could have been better if they would have been donated to the Illinois Rail Museum, to this infamous Richard Jensen, because he is this one rail fan who didn't do a really good job. And speaking of that, in 1969, ownership above the sea, Chicago and Western Indiana Railroad Roundhouse changed, and the new owners evicted Jensen from the roundhouse with a very short notice, and unable to move number 5632 and number 4963. And Jensen received telegrams stating they had 48 hours to complete the premises. The CNWI sold both locomotives illegally. It moved both locomotives number 5632 to Mikado number 4963 to the scrapyard in Chicago scrapyard for storage. But unfortunately, the 5632 derailed on the switch. Derailed as it traversed the track on the switch, traversing the track into the yard. with no way to spend the time and the money to rail and get the locomotive back on the rails. But unfortunately,
Yeah.
the scrapyard employees didn't want the locomotive. I mean, like, the scrapyard employees didn't want the locomotive to be cut up, but that was their only way of clearing the tracks, and so the 5632 was tragically broken up for scrap. Well, it's a
Damn.
partial thanks to what's his face, Manx and Jensen, because Louis W. Manx didn't really want to run steam engines, and then selling that engine to these engines that I mentioned earlier to that owner who didn't do a really good job, Manuel.
I mean, like it didn't end up getting scrapped, did it or no? Because like you said it was.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
5632, 6315, and also 6319 were also scrapped. But 4916, 4963 was scrapped too. Was
Dang.
preserved too. With 4916 nowadays running at the Grand Canyon Railway in Williams, Arizona, which is in your state. You've been to the Grand Canyon Railway, Manuel.
I see.
You've been there, Manuel.
I have, I think. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Tony Ordaz 3 says he BQ is an 05B class steam locomotive. And
Yeah.
I don't know if it
Personally,
was
yes,
Jensen's
but-
fault because of the locomotive. It was just a horrible case of bad luck that struck the 5632. I mean, what I would easily blame on Louis W. Mink for this because he was the one who ended the steam program. And also, if Harry C. Murphy wouldn't have retired, then the locomotives overall could have been completed, like in 1966.
Oh yeah, I could have. No.
Yeah, and it could have been running excursions today and used for the
Exactly.
American Freedom Train with 4449 and the 2101.
Yep.
Instead of Texas and Pacific 610, because due to very slow speeds, it only operated the AF American Freedom Train in Texas. But imagine if it actually wasn't used and 5632 was pulled it instead of 610, including the 611, because there was also an attempt to use the 611 for the American Freedom Train with its non-streamlined livery. But I like when 611's is American Freedom Train was streamlined.
Oh, yeah. That's cool, like videos.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah, and also, and I also mentioned that Louis W. Mink also
Hey,
did one of the
Donna.
worst things. He scrapped like Northern Pacific A4 484 Northern type steam locomotive number 2676.
But what was
at
the reason why
What
he
was
did
that
it? Did he
done?
because he didn't like the
hates steam
engines or
trains,
what?
just like Alfred E. Perlman
yeah.
and evil rail fan this YouTuber Angus Paul, which we hate. Boo.
Oh yeah,
And nobody likes this
Boo.
season because he keeps making these
Yeah.
newfangled
Retrograde.
nonsense, scrapping steam
Yep.
locomotives and classic locomotives. They're part of history, and he's brainwashing them. This is an
Yeah,
absolute
exactly.
sin.
Now that I'm
Yeah.
thinking about it,
And
like,
Oh, yeah.
wasn't like Edward also they didn't change Edward in season 11. They changed him in season 6. Remember from the episode
I meant
Harvey to the
season
Rescue?
10.
Remember Harvey to the Rescue? He
Yeah,
didn't
and
trust
also,
Harvey a bit.
and
He
season
didn't trust
10,
Harvey.
he didn't. And also, Edward was like this mean blue version of James. The Red Engine season 10 was mean to the season 2 episode of Thomas
Oh,
Friends.
they ruined
Like,
Edward, to be honest. They ruined
yeah,
Edward.
and also, then Louis W. Mink discovered the 2676 in the Superior Roundhouse in order to be scrapped in 1965. My dad was like months old when that happened. Imagine if they saved that. And it would have been bought by F. Nelson
If
Blount.
they would have saved it, that
Yeah.
would have been like fine.
Oh,
that would have
yeah,
been
you think
perfect.
about.
No.
And also, not to be confused with any other A4 class 462 Pacifics, because I know 3 of them. Like, one is a glorious London and Northeastern Railway Gressley A4 462 Pacific that smashed a 100-mile speed record at 126 miles per hour, which we know is Mallard. The other one is an 040 Camelback Switcher, number 1187. And the third one is a Northern Pacific 484 Northern type steam locomotive.
See.
Which isn't exactly as popular as the Mallard or 1187.
Okay.
But imagine if it was actually popular, if the 2676 was actually saved, then 2676 could have had a better life than 1187. Right,
Maybe.
Manuel?
Like 100%, yes.
And
Very good.
also, imagine if the 5632, the engine itself wouldn't have derailed, then its tender would have been derailed, and they could have torched tender, and the engine would have been around today. And
Exactly.
imagine if the whole engine didn't derail, it would have been around today in excursions. But I hope there's a replica of it to be built. And then, like 18 years later, Grand Trunk Western 5629 was scrapped and between July 14th and 17th of 1987, which is tragic. One of the real tragedies in rare preservation.
Exactly.
Imagine if it could have been donated to the Illinois Rail Museum, then it could have been running today. But a lot of people
Exactly.
wants to build a replica of 5629, blah blah blah. We get it. We need to build more new build steam locomotives besides the T1. Like not just PRR 5550. We need more extinct steam locomotives and extinct retired steam excursion stars. Yeah. But anyways,
Exactly.
let's talk about another locomotive, like the Frisco 4500s, like the Norfolk and Western Frisco 4500 locomotive.
I see. All right.
Actually, I'll talk about the Norfolk and Western 433 locomotive, which is
Alright.
my friend, my friend from YouTube, which is my now abandoned rail fan YouTube enthusiast friend, some random 5-time, aka Southern Flyer Productions, aka Stephen Singleton. That's his favorite locomotive, Norfolk and Western 433. So I'll send you the link to read. Quick, try to read as quick as you can.
All right, gotcha.
I'm gonna send you the link.
Oh yeah.
I
I'm gonna
got
send
it.
you the link in the post comment.
Okay, go ahead.
Norfolk and Western 433.
I got it. All right, let me just
I sent it to you.
press on it. Let me click on it. Okay.
Press on the link.
It took me.
Okay, like me.
Okay, I got it. Do you want to read it, or who should read it? Who should read it?
You should
How
read it,
about you
Manuel.
try, dude? How about you try, Race? How about
Don't
Race?
scrap me.
Are you sure?
Let me see.
Okay. Or you know what? Maybe I'll read it. Okay, I'll do it. Just give me a second.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm done. Okay. All right, let's do this. Okay. Do you want me to read the history or the first important?
You can read the first. You can read the article first of Norfolk and
All
Western.
right, let's do the article. All right then. Norfolk and Western 433 is a preserved class M4-8-0 Mastodon type steam locomotive built by American locomotive companies Richmond Locomotive Works in January of 1907 for the Norfolk and Western Railway. It was one of the 125 M class engines in operation on the NAW for around 50 years. After surviving an accident in 1951, the 433 was rebuilt and worked in Bristol, Virginia for a time, where he was also assigned as a backup locomotive for the Elbingdon branch. This Molly also worked as a switcher in Ronick Slam and Red Ford. Yeah. The 433 was eventually retired in 1958, and it became one of the only 2M class locomotives to survive aside from the lost engines of Ronick. It was cosmetically
It was
restored.
cosmetically restored in 2002.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, cosmetically
and now
restored.
resides as a static display along the old Virginia Creek Vapor Trail and Abingdon, Virginia.
Yep.
Because that's the same place where some random 510, aka Southern Flyer Productions, aka Stephen Singleton, lives. And also, his Southern Flyer Productions account, he makes these VHS Fears series, and he has these Thomas VHS Fears, and also with Arthur and Madeline. You know that Madeline cartoon, the one with France, Manuel?
I've seen it before. Yeah, I've seen it.
I've seen it, but I haven't watched it. But I would love to watch it if I get the complete series on DVD. And also, they have this live action movie of it. And it had two movies. But the best one, in my honest opinion, is the Madeline animated movie. And also, he did VHS Fears videos of these Dr. Seuss beginner book videos. And also, he did his Extinct Steam Locomotives video and his parts 1 and 2 of his top 20 retired Steam Scares Stories video before it got moved into his new channel, Some Random 5 Chime. And he also did parts 3 and 4 and 5 with the honorable mention segment. And he joins Andrew, aka Overpowered Steam Productions' podcast series called Burning Subjects. But imagine if he was actually with us now, then he would be able to talk about this locomotive. And also, I've heard that in his live streams that he wants to restore it one of these days. And what he's going to do with it, he's going to add a centered headlight on the locomotive, just like the 475 at the Strasbourg Railroad, Manuel.
Yeah, exactly.
And he wants to convert it to vegetable oil, so it wouldn't have to deal with wasting too much coal. And he also wants to fit it with a Reading 6-chime whistle tune. And hopefully paint its tire wheels white, I guess. Yeah. But before we get to number 1, I would like to include some honorable mentions on this list, which are Duluth, Missouri, Iron Range 2884, Yellowstone number 227, Chesapeake in Ohio L1464, Hudson number 490, Pennsylvania Railroad M1B 482, Mountain Type number 6755, the Delaware Lackawanna Western number 952, Bessemer Lake Erie 643 locomotive, the Grand Trunk Western 63-9 and 8380, Boston Maine locomotive 410, also the Canadian Pacific 3100, Canadian National 4100 diesel electric train, and also the Great Eastern Railroad 240 British steam locomotive number 490, which is the same number as Chesapeake and Ohio 490, Manuel.
Yep.
And also don't forget the New York Central 6721 locomotive, and also the Frisco 4500 locomotive, the Frisco 4018 282 Macadam, Norfolk and Western 2156
Bless you.
too.
Thank
It
you.
didn't operate in the preservation era.
Thank you.
Bless you too.
Let's get
And
going.
also
Thank
don't
you.
forget Great Northern 1355 too, and also Canadian Pacific G2462 Pacific number 2634, and also the DRG class Bawanaya 0511, those streamlined steam locomotive, which is the second fastest steam locomotive in the world that reached 124.1 miles an hour by the 0522. But 0511 was one of the members of the DRG 05 class German steam locomotives, and also the Russian Railways IS 284 Berkshire type steam locomotive number 578, and also the Pennsylvania Railroad 4483, which is a 210 decapod, Manuel.
Yep. All right.
The
Let me
Union
link.
Pacific 3206 462 Pacific, the Santa Fe 5000 steam locomotive, and the 5011 steam locomotive, the Santa Fe 3463 locomotive. Also, don't forget the Norfolk and Western and 2050 282 Malay.
Yep.
And also the Nickel Plate Road 170 locomotive too. And also National Railways of Mexico 3028, and also 3030, 3038, 3033, and also National Railways of Mexico 280 consolidation number 903, which is also the basis for Carlos in the Thomas and Friends Great Race movie.
Exactly. I was about to say that too.
And also the Boston and Maine 1455 locomotive, which is on display at the Danbury Museum, which is at Danbury, Connecticut, in my home state.
Yes.
And also the Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy 3003, and also the Pennsylvania Railroad 460 locomotive, The Union Pacific 5511 locomotive, even though it's awaiting restoration to running condition, being donated to the railroading Midwest of Midwestern America with 3985 because that's the good news, Manuel.
Okay.
And also Nickel Plate Road number 624. And also the Western Pacific 165 locomotive, even though it's still undergoing a restoration to running condition, that doesn't mean it operated in a preservation era. Nashville, Chattanooga, and St. Louis 576 steam locomotive because it's the only late Nashville, Chattanooga, and St. Louis Dixie type steam locomotive to never operate in a preservation era too.
Yeah.
Don't forget the Illinois Central 2500 482 Mountain Type and the Great Northern 2507 and the 2580 482 Mountain Type and the 2584 484 Northern Type steam locomotive.
Yeah, I got it.
And also the number
Yeah.
one steam locomotive that has not operated in the preservation era is the Southern Pacific 4460 steam locomotive. So I'll be the one who talks about it. Because the
Okay.
Southern Pacific Railroad is like my number one all-time favorite railroad in the entire world. So here is this. Pacific 4460. The Southern Pacific 4460 is the only surviving GS6 steam locomotive together with GS4 class Southern Pacific 4449, which is an operational and excursion service. The GS6 is a semi-streamlined 484 Northern type steam locomotive, and GS stands for Golden State or General Service locomotive. The locomotive was built by the Lima Locomotive Works, aka LLW for short, for the Southern Pacific Railroad, aka the SP for short, in 1943. The GS6 lacked a side skirting and red and orange daylight paint on previous GS of the class GS class locomotives, and were painted black and silver instead. The war production controlled the locomotive manufacturers during World War II and had turned down Southern Pacific's order of 14 new daylight locomotives in 1942. But imagine if 4460 also pulled the daylight, it would be nice. And then the Southern Pacific redesigned the new fleet based on the older GS2s, only with 260 psi instead of 250 psi. An all-weather cab and a new GS4 style tender. The design was finally approved, but the War Production Board reassigned Ford to the smaller and power-starved Western Pacific Railroad, and the only tender from the Western Pacific GS64, aka the GS64 number 44, remains. The smaller size was compared to the previous GS class locomotives, and the fact that they were built during World War II, and they earned the nicknames War Babies, or Baby Daylights, or Black Daylights, or War Baby Daylights, or Forgotten Daylights. And then, in early service years, the Southern Pacific 4460 was built in July of 1943 and was used during World War II. The first engine was the first GS6 ever manufactured, and is famous for pulling the last steam-powered passenger train and being the last operational steam locomotive on the Southern Pacific Railroad in October 1958. That final one was from Sacramento, California to Sparks, Nevada, and returned with no diesel assistance except for when number 4460 developed and suffered a hot axle bearing, and a local, just similar to Grand Trunk Western U3B484 Confederation type steam locomotive, number 6325 from the Ohio Central Road, when it was Ohio Central 6325 at the time, when the engine also suffered a hot axle bearing between 2005 and hasn't operated since. And then a local Boy Scout bugler from the Bay Area Council played taps for the funeral of the 4460, staged by the Southern Pacific Railroad. And for the preservation, following the final excursion, the Southern SB 4460 was retired on Halloween, October 31st of 1958. And then the SB 4460 was donated to the National Museum of Transportation in St. Louis, Missouri on April 16th, 1959, where the engine has since sat among with many other historic steam and diesel locomotives from around the country. Besides having the nicknames Black Daylight or Baby Daylights or Baby Daylights, it is also known as the Forgotten Daylight, as it not has seen this the in the famed sister locomotive Southern Pacific 4449 has had when that engine was restored to operating condition. And then while I was on display at the National Museum of Transportation near Kirkwood in St. Louis, Missouri, the 4449 obviously suddenly, unsurprisingly, because apparently, and albeit stole the title, and the absolute title and the crown of the 4460. And we all know 4449 with her American Freedom Train and her Train Fan 4636 at Givon. And we all know, we all know 4449 with its American Freedom Train, its Tough Guys, and its being a self-employed appreciation special with its black livery, and how it met other steam locomotives that have been in different types of movies, TV shows, TV specials, and TV documentaries, and these video games, video news, and also magazine, video showcases and video plays too, and all types of media and blah 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 and all that. But no one has mentioned her fallen sibling, number 4460. Because apparently a full restoration to operation of the 460 is unlikely to happen in near not too distant future. Because 4460 has 1% in fame. Right, Manuel?
Yep, definitely.
Yeah.
And we all know that a lot of owners out there keep saying, "Ooh, I want to see 460. Ooh, I want to see 4460 restored."
I could understand that.
But they keep making these fake restoration project attempts. But tragically, all of them failed miserably. They should have put so much effort.
Sorry. It's just that allergies is because there's so much stuff in my room.
And Tyler Green also said, "Will you talk about Chicago, Illinois Midland number 5511? It's a Lima built 218 Mikado at the Museum of Transportation in St. Louis, Missouri."
Oh wow, he's actually have a picture of Stryker. I know Stryker. He's the one from Helga Boss. I watched that show.
Yeah, and also I would rather talk about that locomotive in the not too distant future, where I make I'll make a part 2.
Can we also make another part 2 for train documentaries, or do we make that?
Out of these two.
Can we also talk about one of the worst aviation disasters too in another live stream or something?
Yeah, and another live stream one of these days. And hopefully Tyler Green would be able to join the stream. So Tyler Green, if you're watching my podcast series called Crashing Activities, it looks similar to Andrew, aka Overpowered Steam Productions' podcast series Burning Subjects. And also, you would join one of our streams, and I'll send you one of the links in case you want to join one of these days. And guys, raise your hand if you want 4460 to be restored.
Well, actually, we can't raise our hands, but just say yes. How about just say
yes? Yes, and also...
But yes, I do.
And we can all see ourselves, too.
Oh, I can't. My camera's broken right now.
Can I raise our hands to see the...
Dude, my hands are broken. I mean, my camera's
he also
broken.
knows Andrew. He's an amazing friend, too. And also, I'm one of Andrew's new friends. I know him since late December of 25th. Friday, December 25th of 2020. During the COVID-19 virus pandemic. When some random 5 case Southern Flyer Productions, aka Steven Singleton, mentioned in his part 5 of his top 20 retired steam excursion stars in the USA video, where he talks about when the honorable mention segment after the ending of the 1278 segment, where he talks about mentions Andrew, aka Overpowered Steam Productions, how they talk about mainly steam locomotives in the preservation era. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yes, I understand what you're trying to say.
And also, imagine Andrew was in this live. It would be nice. And Stephen would also join. And also, Jim Vanderkolk should joined, along with 2016 Productions and Owen Miller, aka Omela 69, aka Bastard in Ohio.
Oh
Let's
yeah.
see.
And
Oh yeah, definitely.
also, it would be nice to see a 4449 and
Hey, shut up.
4460 double
Bless
triple
you.
head, along with
Thank
the along with the new build full size replica of a Western Pacific GS4 number 484. Imagine that.
Mm-hmm.
But we still have the surviving tender of number 484. But imagine if someone has the money, like $25 million to build a replica of the engine. Imagine if I actually did that, then it would be nice.
Mm-hmm. Excuse me. But yeah. Uh-huh. Yes,
Oh,
definitely.
and also Tyler Green also said, imagine they dressed one of the Frisco T-54s as a Florida East Coast 482, and they
Tyler
look very
Green?
familiar, and
Oh,
both burned
Freddy
oil, and
fan.
they were built in the 1920s. But the FCE's 482s were built by Alco, while the Frisco T-54 482 mountain types, which were built by Baldwin. And the differences between the T-54s and the Florida East Coast 482s, because 6 Frisco 482s are preserved. It's like how Mallard has 5 other sister engines, which are Gresley A4s preserved, and 6 surviving nickel plate 284 Berkshires type steam locomotives. That's a cool sight, Manuel.
That's definitely
The
100%. Not
famous
gonna lie.
out of the A4s is Mallard because we all know she's the fastest steam locomotive in the world, and she's the basis of Spencer from Thomas and Friends, and my number one all-time favorite retired steam excursion starring, and my favorite Grizzly A4 Pacific, and also for 1522 is the loudest steam locomotive thanks to its stack talk, and my favorite 482 mountain type, and also 765 is my favorite 284 Berkshire. Yeah, and also maybe a little bit overrated, but still a good one.
Okay.
It's so
Not if
easy
we're
to like
understanding though.
765, but
Oh yeah, I
other
like
people
it.
prefer other Berkshires like 1225, which is the base of the Polar Express, and 2716, which is which is also a fun marvelous locomotive,
Locomotive.
but
Locomotive.
because it had 11 other surviving sisters, with 3 almost being close to be preserved. But the ones that were supposed to be preserved, the 3 ones were 27-1, which was displayed at Buffalo, New York, but tragically vandalized and scrapped. But imagine they could have put some high fences.
Yeah, that would have made understanding, That would have been
And
cool.
also they would have, and it would have been around today. And also the other 2 are 2770 and 2781. And also about the 2770, they could have had it bought by F. Nelson Blount, and the 2781 should have been donated to the Ohio Railway Museum, same place where the Norfolk and Western E2A 462 Pacific number 578 is at. And also Tyler Green said the New York Central Hudsons could go to 123 miles an hour. So if they were to pull just a little bit, they could have beaten Mount's record back in the day. Now imagine that. Then imagine if one Hudson got tested in Princeton Junction, then it could have been the fastest steam locomotive, and it could have been an easy pick for preservation, Manuel.
It could have.
But so I
Literally.
prefer the A-Force in my honest opinion because of the legendary designer Nigel Gresley. He's the guy who designed these engines along with the A3s, V2s, and P2s, and also the failed Gresley A1 that was originally that Henry was originally as, but it was flawed and he failed miserably. And then Henry was rebuilt by William Stanier in 1935 after his tragic accident with the Flying Kipper in November of 1935.
So, like, the Flight Kipper was actually based off a real true life story.
I think so. And then Henry got rebuilt into a Stanier Glatt 5 and still had his A1 appearance. And
But he
he
had
was
a
the
new
same
boiler
Henry.
after the
And
accident.
I couldn't believe that Sir Topham Hatt, the Fat Controller, aka Sir Topham Hatt, would actually scrap one of his engines. But Henry was rebuilt by William Stanier and still had
and Ronnie, I also heard from GWR Studios,
his
he said he had a
A1
mechanical
appearance.
problem.
He still had his A1 appearance, but he is the
But the good thing about the
But
engine
he
is
was
that
a
the real
Black
life engine
Five.
of
Oh, yeah.
Henry is still
Oh, yeah.
there. You know.
And Tyler Glynn says, if you talk about railroad
Tyler.
accidents, please talk about the
Yes.
Railroad Coastline P5B Pacific number 1605's tragic accident. We'll talk about that in the not too distant future.
How about we just talk about the Silver Springs collision? I know that story.
Silver Springs collision too.
Yeah,
And also,
yeah.
we're not going to
The
talk
Mar
about
train.
the Plymouth rail accident where the British Rail
What was
Class
that?
47 got hit by a cow because we want
What?
What was that?
because it's so violent and disturbing.
Yeah, I know that was very
What
disturbing.
was that?
Yeah, and it's
Well-
very sad because
What was that?
we remember the banner that I put.
I don't remember.
Quiet. What was that?
It was just a dog. You have a dog.
Oh, wow. The pets.
Just
Yeah.
like Sasha having a dog in Amphibia. Because she's more into dogs instead of cats, while Anna's more into cats and Marcy's into birds.
Wait. I'm so excited Halloween. October 3rd.
So what are you going to be for Halloween?
I use it M&M's.
I'm going to be Amity from the Owl House and Hunter from the Owl House for Halloween this year. How about you, Manuel?
So I like this SpongeBob Halloween.
Manuel?
Another Loud House.
You know the Loud House?
Yeah, it's on Nickelodeon.
Yeah, I know. What's your favorite character?
Like in Loud.
Mine is Lori. She's the oldest, even though she's in college, and I still miss her.
True. Well, we're talking.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, my mic was muted for a second. What's up?
Oh, yeah, and also...
Oh, yeah.
Not only that,
Yes.
Sir Nigel Bresley also designed these locomotives because he also designed the J50 tank engines. And also, Thomas originally was supposed to be J50, but selected by an E2 instead.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you know
So,
you
like,
love
what
the
can you conclude
E2s,
about
and
the
it's
live
your
stream?
favorite
Actually,
British
are you
steam
gonna
engine.
conclude it?
And also, after Sir Nigel Bresley passed away due to a heart attack, like on April 2nd, 1941, Edward Thompson, the now infamous Edward Thompson, succeeded him as chief mechanical of the LNER. And then he made the infamous decision to rebuild Bresley's existing locomotives, like turn a batch of V2s in his problematic A V2/2 1, and all 6 of his A2/P2 Mercados into his infamously crappy A2/2s. Even with the A2/2s, his infamy began. During his infamy began, and one of the worst things he did, he rebuilt Great Northern number 4470, aka 1470, which is Gresley's first Pacific in the form of the LNER, into his hideous A1/1. Yeah, and it became 113 under Thompson's own renumbering scheme, and then number 60113 by BR suffered a rough, tragic life and infamy, all because of Thompson's foolish actions. But the worst thing he did, he built one of his 262 or 264 tank engines, Adriatic tank engines, right, Manuel?
Yeah.
And they kind of suck. At least Thompson is the worst chief mechanical engineer of the LNER, and I hate him. And Sir Nigel Grizzlies easily win. And also, Tyler Green said, from what I found, in 1948, P5 Pacific number 1605 was on a stopped freight train, but that a streamliner collided head-on right into this 1605, and I think it was scrapped after that. What a way to go.
Definitely, it was scrap. With the Silver Springs
And
class, I
this.
actually
You
know
gotta
about
read
a little
this.
bit of it.
And that's
You gotta read this.
Green?
Alright.
Really?
You gotta read what Tyler Green says.
No one.
He says they found pictures of it. There was no way 1605 could have been saved. That steamliner absolutely destroyed the 1605. Dang.
We're gonna talk about it in the next train wrecks.
Yep. So we gotta
And
continue
all
the
right.
Are we gonna
And all right.
Uh-huh.
Despite being being nicknamed the War Baby Daylight, the Black Baby Daylight, the Black Daylight, and the Wartime Daylight, and especially tragically the Forgotten Daylight, and been the last steam locomotive to be operated by the Southern Pacific, and also being in hopelessly classed by older sister engine number 4449, aka which commonly known as the Daylight, which is my number one all-time favorite steam locomotive in the entire world, and has been exposed to elements and vandals vandals, deterioration, and and destruction, and completely forgotten.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Especially
Oh
tops
yeah.
and the
Yes.
Southern Pacific 4460.
That's great.
It definitely it deserves and earns my number one pick on this list of my
not a tire.
of my steam locomotives preserved steam locomotives that have not operated in the preservation era live stream.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video. This is like the longest episode so
thanks.
far.
Our longest
Guys,
live
enjoyed
streams
the
ever.
video. Make
Yeah.
sure to like, comment. You should try do the
Oh yes.
follow
See you
Alasia
next Sunday.
thing.
I go to school.
Yeah, because I got school too, actually.
You and Manuel, you can subscribe to Alasia in any form of media.
Okay,
That's a
sure, no
folks.
problem.
So
Sure, no problem.
So the
I'll go
platforms
for
I have
the
for
review.
YouTube,
That's all,
TikTok,
folks.
Instagram,
That's all.
Snapchat too.
See you next Sunday.
Snapchat, everybody. Yeah.
Make
See you
sure to
guys
guys
later.
like, comment,
See you
share
next Sunday.
this video to your friends, subscribe, and click the notification button where the bells to be alerted when a new
Let's see you
video is
next
uploaded.
Sunday.
You can also find my other platforms like YouTube, Twitter, Facebook,
Instagram.
TikTok,
On TikTok.
Snapchat, Discord, and also Messenger, WhatsApp, DeviantArt, I have a lot like DeviantArt, Tumblr, Spotify,
Vlogs.
Newgrounds, PixArt, Pixiv, Patreon. Anyways, until next time, this is Amity
see you
Blight,
next
and
Sunday.
SB44 for 9 year, and wish you all good luck and bye.
Shut the
Good
fuck.
night, bye. Dears. See you guys
Bye.
later. Hasta
Yay.
mañana. And that's all, folks.
That's
And
all,
with that,
folks. See ya.
and on that bombshell, as you guys watching, thank you so much for watching. Good night, bye, adios, and see you guys tomorrow. Hasta
Bye. See you
mañana.
next Sunday.
And that's all, folks. Peace. God bless you all.
Bye.